All right. Um, welcome. So, we're going to talk about making some big logos, kind of chunky logos. What we're looking at here is Draplin's the cover to Draplin's book uh, and design, Draplin design. A lot of really neat stuff here, and I just think that the great thing about Draplin is that he has such I know it has such interesting designs that kind of seem as though they're just all a puzzle. So when we go through them and we reproduce them, it kind of shows us the puzzles and the fun that you can have making logos of this kind, because you learn a lot through the reproduction of these logos. So the first one that we're going to give a shot at, let me see if I can find it here. Where did it go? I know it's here. Maybe it's a really small one. Here it is, the Inkjet Lab logo. So it's kind of deceptively simple. You might think that you just have circles and then you have a square, um, and but there is a little bit more to it. And of course, there's also many different ways of doing things, but there's one way that kind of that jumps at you when you do it right, and it's kind of the easiest way. It's almost a little design Occam's razor. So we have the finished logo right over here. So if we start by doing a circle or an ellipse, holding Alt and Shift, and let's make it about here, like so. Uh, Now the best way to do this that I've found is by just going into the pen tool, clicking right over here on this path, then clicking on Alt and turning it into a hard edge, grabbing this until you see that purple line with the smart guide, and this one over here with that guide, and then we get this little shape. So where's the circle? So that's one of the things that I think, the inside that is. That's one of the things I think that is interesting about Draplin, is that he uses a lot of really heavy strokes. So we can bring this down so it's about like so, and then we can move it on its side and move it down like that. And then we'll turn this into multiply, and we'll switch these guys so that so the stroke is there with no fill, and we'll put up this stroke to about no, 27 is too big. Let's do it about 22. So there's our little image. Then we take this guy, we duplicate him, hopefully, and then we rotate him. Let's change this color. What do we have on there? 22. Yeah, 22. Multiply. And now you can see it really nicely just all snaps in there, just like it was absolutely made for it. So it's essentially just paths, and that's one of the reasons why I had you guys learn so much about paths. Then I take this one over here and I rotate it with Shift, and I bring that down. Let's change the color first. It'll be a lot easier. Over here, flip that, change this to 22, change this to multiply. Just like that, it snaps absolutely right into place. Just as easy as that. So fascinating little bit, and even the colors just all perfectly just come together because they're all multiplied together, and that's, who knows, maybe that's how he did it, but that's how we did it today. So we'll go on to some other ones. All right, so this one is the Draplin Design Company, or Draplin rather, Design Company logo. So it's this DDC. There's some interesting things about this one that I'll show, that it can be kind of done in a couple different ways. Um, so this is kind of a cool experiment. So if I move this off here, we can see one that I had done. And I don't know, I made that a while ago, so I don't remember exactly how I made it, but this is how we're going to make it now. So to start with, we're going to get some black, and then we're going to talk about this shape. So this shape is the one that can be made in a couple different ways. Well, more than a couple of ways. One way we could do it, um, which is one of my students commented on this, is we can make it just with a pen tool, but we have to make sure that um, our pen tool is that we have the grid snap on, and we can click like that. We can make that. There are some problems with this because we can see that it looks as though this angle is coming down a little faster than this one. We could probably fix that. If we look at the handles, we look at there's no handle on that one, so we'd have to go in here, convert this into a soft edge, grab this, bring it down over there, click on this, and then grab this handle. That's still not working. So a lot of different ways that you can make it. This one would at least have the a little bit more of an exacting curve to it. But so in order to avoid those pitfalls, the two ways that we could make this circle or this ellipse is one, we could create our ellipse like this. Then we can cut this ellipse into pieces. And the easiest way to do this is just to grab a bunch of squares, select all these guys, go into our shape builder, and delete all these excess pieces, and we're left with a nice curve. It'd be interesting to see if these are both the same. Let's find out. The only way to find out is we have different colors. A lot of this is a big discovery and experimentation. So yeah, that looks like it's pretty much the same exact angle. So we have these guys. This is one way of doing it. And then if we make our rectangles, go back a couple, making a making logos with the grid snap on is a great way to just get the simplicity of the of the um, of the design down. So what this does is we have the D, it comes out and it goes to flat right over here. And we can see here that it also goes to flat over there. So the other way of doing it is to imply a continual curve. So if we go here and we're going to go, instead of just straight in there, inside of 4 squares, we'll go in to 1 over. And this means that it will be essentially like cut. It will eliminate part of this curve here. So what do we want to do too? That's a good question. We grab this, we put 2 here, and we put 2 down here. So like that. No, we just want 1. You'll see what I mean? It's all about discovery and experimentation. Oh, yes, I get it. Okay, duh. One outside of it is equal, one outside of each side is equal to 2. Silly, silly me. So now we have, and we can cut this like that, select all these guys, and then use the shape builder and remove these pieces. And when we take these guys together, we bring them over here like this, what we have is an implied curve. So the implied curve is that it will, you can see how it doesn't fully go up to the top there. So what this is doing is it's using the negative space. The negative space is where it would curve up to this other spot. So personally, I like this one because it implies a little bit, and this one though is also interesting because it's kind of a bit of a nod to this one, but at the same time, it's saying it's its own individual parts. So there's nothing really cut out of it. So you could do it either way, and either way I think would totally be a good design choice. Um, there's a Latin phrase that goes "de gustibus non est disputandum," which means there's no disputing tastes. One can, but arguing about something subjective is as embarrassing as chasing one's hat down the street. I prefer not to do that. Uh, that's a movie quote on a movie I'm not quite remembering, or a reference to one. And with that design change, we can then we can go in here and we can change our colors. So to get these colors, if you don't have CMYK in your swatches, so if we look at our swatches, I have CMYK in my swatches for some reason. Some students didn't have that. You can go into your picker, select the right ones. You can go into your picker and you'll notice that you have HSB, RGB, CMYK, and then the hex number. So this one is going to be cyan. So we want that one to be black, and we want this one here to be 100 so that we get a really good cyan color. And then we can just select these guys, which will be magenta. And so this will be 0 again, and this one will be 100. And we can select these. And this will be yellow. So again, 0, yellow, 100. And this one, I don't think it's gray like this. I think it's actually more of a 50% in everything. It could be 50% gray. Let's look and see if we can find out. That would be another choice. Yeah, it does look like 50% gray. So, all right, so that's two different ways to make that particular logo. It's hard to say if that's the way that Draplin did it, but I would suspect that he would probably have done the bottom one. He's kind of a clever fellow. So there you are. There's the next logo. All right, so here we go. Here we have another one. This is the last one that I want to show in this video. We're going to make this little dude here. So there's a couple interesting things about it, and I made some little markings in here. We'll try to get as close to it as possible. So without Draplin actually telling us how he did it, we're going to do it our own way. So to figure out what the trick is, we've actually done something like very similar to this already with the transform, with grouping. So to start with, I'm going to lock this guy so that I'm just in this layer. we will start with just a rectangle tool. Oh, incidentally, so let's look at it a little bit. The middle of it we're going to have cut out so that it'll be transparent. But we can see here this one is horizontal, so it just goes straight horizontal. This one goes straight vertical. This one horizontal. This one vertical, and they have a chunkiness to them. And we can see the inside circle is around there, the middle circle is there. So we'll try to get as close as possible. Then we have a gradient on it, and you may have noticed that when you have multiple objects, the gradients are just going to behave inside of each of the objects. So in order to get all of them to interact as one, we have to make that whole thing as one object. So you may have to futz around with it to make sure that it gets to kind of the way that we want it to be. But let's start off with just a cube rectangle, and we'll start with that one, and then I'll make another rectangle, and we'll make it about that big. So we're going to rotate it around this guy here. We select both of them and we group them, and then we go into select our group that we have there, and then we go into effects and transform. And so we can see we have 12 of these guys, these spikes here. 360 divided by 12 copies 11 because we already have one. And then we click on this little guy down here, and then we get this. So it's starting to look kind of what we want. We'll click OK on that. Remember, you can look at the transform over here in your appearance, like a history. And let's go into these objects. So I'm going to double click inside of this, go into our direct selection tool, and let's see if we can rotate it. So remember, you can click multiple anchors and move multiple anchors at once. If you're in direct selection tool, you click on one anchor and then hold down shift and click another one. Then if we want to move it to the side, we click and hold and then move it to the side with shift held down. So now we pretty much have what we want going on there. We have a lot of room on the inside here. And let's see if we can make it a little bit more kind of what we're looking for. So when I move it down, you will notice that this angle goes down. We don't really want that. We want to make it a little bit more chunky, and we also want to make sure that it is, these guys are set at a 45. So there we go. That looks a little bit more like we're getting, but it's a little kind of too chunky. And that looks a little bit more what we're looking for. Cool. Okay. Now, let's see if we can, there we go. All right. Okay. I moved that, and that makes it even more close to what we want. So with that done, let's go back out of isolation mode. We have our neat object we can move around. But you'll also notice that this has kind of some spiky edges to it. So we want to make a circle around this and cut off those edges. So we're going to flip the fill and the stroke. We're going to make an ellipse. And let's see if we can get right in the middle of this thing. Alt. We may need to turn off our snap to grid so that our smart guides work right. Let's select both of them, and let's try align. Align objects horizontally and vertically. Whoop, that's not what we want. So that doesn't necessarily work. How about we try this instead? So we select the object there, and let's try expand appearance. So now we have that whole object there. Let's see if we can get a little bit more exacting. It looks like it may have done that. Looks close enough to me. Okay, so now we have our little circle around there, and we have our regular object. So what we'll do here is we'll go into our shape builder and we'll just cut off these guys here. So we could also do a clipping mask. I don't know off the top of my head if doing a clipping mask will make it um, will allow us to expand the appearance. Move that out of the way. And we still have our shape here. So let's put all these guys together using the shape builder. Draw those pieces together. Hopefully we are not left with any little tiny artifact. I think we may. Right, we're left with some artifacts, which is kind of irksome. No? All right, so now we have no little artifacts and it's all nice and clean. So what we'll do here, let's take our little circle and let's give it a fill and a different color so that we can just see it in front of everything. And hold down Shift and Alt. So you can see we're not exactly the same as this, but such is life, you know? There's other things to worry about. So that looks pretty good to me. If you want it any bigger, make it just slightly bigger. All right. Now we shift select on the other object and we go to shape builder and we remove this guy. And now we have the whole thing as one object. And you see horizontal, vertical, horizontal, vertical. So we're following a lot of that. Let's give it a gradient. So to give it a gradient, this is our gradient. I'm going to put that on there. So it's already set up. You'll see that it's minus 90. If it's not working out the way you want it, you can adjust this and you can change the angle that it's at. Sometimes it shows up the edit gradient, and not exactly sure why. Sometimes it shows up and sometimes it doesn't. But we're happy with what this is, and there's the last one for today. So you can also see, though, if we move it in front of something, that you can see straight through it, and it's just one single object. So good fun. I hope you've enjoyed this and learned something from it.